Tell you something right now. Going no contact with a narcissist is one of the hardest and bravest choices you'll ever make. And if you're here listening, it means you've either already done it or you're thinking about it. But here's the truth. Just because you're done with them doesn't mean they're finished with you. In fact, the very moment you go quiet, that's when their real game begins. Because narcissists don't just walk away. Oh no, they plan, they plot, and they wait. They're not staying silent because they respect your boundary. They're not avoiding you because they've moved on. They're quiet because they're calculating their next move. And today I'm pulling back that curtain. I'm going to show you the 7 hidden things a narcissist secretly wants from you when you cut them off. Not the obvious drama. I'm talking about what's happening in the background. What they're hoping you'll do, what they're waiting to see, and why your silence isn't rest for them, it's strategy. So, if you've ever doubted your choice, if you've ever wondered why you still feel like they're tugging at your emotions, stay with me. Because by the time you finish this, you'll see their game plan clearly. And even better, you'll know exactly how to win it. When you go no contact with a narcissist, it triggers a reaction. It might not be an argument or a direct fight. Sometimes it's something small. A post, a like, a story view, a quick message, anything that shows them they still get under your skin. Because when you go silent, their mind doesn't see that as the end. It sees it as a challenge, a test of power. And trust me, they are watching. They monitor every move, even when it looks like they've forgotten you. Why? Because your silence is not just silence to them. It's a threat to the control they once held. Narcissists survive on attention. It doesn't matter if it's love or anger. It's all supply. When you cut contact, it's like you've shut off their air. That silence, that peace, it's powerful to you, but unbearable to them. It confuses them, frustrates them, makes them question their grip. They can't stand not knowing how you feel. And what they hate even more is the idea that you might actually be doing fine without them. So what do? They poke. At first, it's small. They might view your story but never send a word. They might post something vague that sounds like it's aimed at you. They might ask a mutual friend about you or leave a comment somewhere from your past hoping it reaches you. All of this is bait. They want a reaction. Any reaction proves you're still in the game, even if you think you're not. And this is where it gets dangerous. Narcissists know your patterns. They know what gets under your skin. If they can't make you talk, they'll settle for making you feel. If they can't drag you back into their world, they'll settle for living in your mind. They want you replaying the last fight. They want you checking their socials, wondering if they're happy. They want you angry or sad because every emotional reaction, even one you don't show, feeds them power. They don't need you to text. They just need to know that you care. That's their victory, because if you still care, they still control the game. The second you react, even slightly, a comment, a post that sounds emotional, a shared quote, they know the door is still open. And if the door is open, they can step right back in when they want. Now let's talk about the mind games they play during no contact. Sometimes they'll disappear on purpose, hoping you'll start wondering why. Why aren't they trying to reach out? Did they forget you that fast? Did they ever care at all? That silence is staged. It's not peace, it's provocation. They're using absence to make you doubt your choice. They want your confusion to push you into breaking no contact. The second you text, the second you reach out, it's over. They've won back control. They don't just want a reaction, they expect it, they rely on it, they truly believe you won't last. That you'll miss them, second guess yourself, and give in. And if they can't get to you directly, they'll come at you indirectly. They'll post subtle messages, spread half-truths, or suddenly start showing off a new relationship. It's not because they've moved on, it's because they want to keep you watching. They want to make sure you still feel something. because feelings equal attention, and attention equals control. Every move they make during no contact is calculated. It's not progress, it's manipulation. They're not moving forward. They're trying to pull you backward. They want to reset the same painful cycle. They want to make sure that even when you're silent, they still hold space in your thoughts. And every single day you stay quiet, you take back your strength piece by piece. When a narcissist loses access to you, they don't suddenly become self-aware. They don't feel real regret. What they do instead is twist your silence into guilt. They want to turn it into a mirror that makes you doubt yourself. They crave your guilt, your second guessing, your emotional confusion. They know guilt is one of the strongest chains. And if they can't touch you physically, they'll work to live rent-free inside your mind. For them, your silence is not just rejection, it's humiliation. It's an attack on their ego. But instead of facing that truth, they rewrite the story. Suddenly, you're the one who's cold. You're the one who walked away without trying. You become the villain. This reversal is powerful because it makes you question your own reality. You start replaying every conversation, every argument, wondering where things went wrong. They want that. They want you lost in that emotional loop, so deep in it that you start forgetting why you went no contact in the first place. They want you remembering the good moments, the charm, the laughter, and ignoring the manipulation and pain. They want you thinking, maybe I overreacted, maybe they weren't that bad, maybe I gave up too soon. That doubt is their back door. If they can plant even one seed of shame in your mind, they know it's only a matter of time before you feel like you owe them something, a text, an explanation, a chance. Narcissists are masters at using your empathy against you. That's why they chose you. Your compassion, your loyalty, your depth, everything they don't have, they feed off. And when they can't guilt you into returning, they'll guilt you for leaving. They'll act like they're broken, abandoned, misunderstood. They'll play the victim not always directly, but through others. Mutual friends, social media posts, subtle silence that tugs at your conscience. It's manipulation without direct contact, and it works especially when you're still healing. Because for a kind person, guilt feels unbearable. They know it. They count on it. They don't want your love. They want your emotional energy. They want your inner turmoil, that invisible tension you carry late at night when you start thinking, maybe I was too harsh, maybe I was too sensitive. That is their goal. They hand you their emotional mess and stand back to watch if you'll clean it up. They don't want peace. They want confusion. They want to make your strength feel like cruelty, your distance feel like betrayal. And when guilt grows, it doesn't whisper, it screams. And narcissists know how to make it echo until it fills your thoughts. Even without contact, they want control. They want to live in your mind rent-free. They want your obsession, not the kind where you chase them, but the kind where you can't stop replaying what happened. They want you wondering what you could have done differently. They want you thinking about what they're doing now. That's the real goal. If they can't have your body or your time, they'll take your peace. Because for them, being remembered, being thought about, even being hated is still power. When you find yourself replaying arguments, imagining what they might say if you talked again, that's them still pulling the strings. They built that loop in your head on purpose. They conditioned you to question, to hope, to fix. But every time you resist that urge to reach out, you break that loop a little more. You start replacing their voice with your own. You stop asking, what if they change? And start saying, I deserve calm. And that's where your real power begins. Because narcissists can only live where chaos exists. The more peace you choose, the less air they have to breathe. The more silent you stay, the more invisible their control becomes. Your distance isn't weakness, it's recovery. It's the end of their illusion and the start of your freedom. Analyzing their actions, trying to make sense of their mixed signals, or constantly checking social media to see if they've posted something new. That kind of obsession is energy. It's attention. And they love knowing they still hold that much power over you without saying a single word. To them, it means the bond isn't broken, it's just shifted. They don't need to talk when they've already taken space inside your mind. This is exactly why narcissists end relationships surrounded by confusion. They almost never give you closure. They won't take responsibility. They won't explain themselves. And they definitely won't acknowledge your pain. Instead, they disappear. They ghost, they discard, or they turn cold without any warning because they know that confusion is the quickest path to obsession. The human brain hates open endings. It wants resolution. So when someone vanishes or flips the story with no explanation, your mind races to fill in the gaps, trying to find meaning in the chaos, and that's exactly what they count on. The more you think, the more they stay in control. Sometimes they'll even sprinkle a little false hope before they disappear. Maybe they mentioned a future with you. Maybe they apologized just enough to keep you uncertain. Or maybe they said they just need space for a while. Those are not innocent comments. They're breadcrumbs, psychological hooks that keep you wondering if they'll come back, if they meant what they said, or if you should wait. And every second you spend trapped in that mental loop is a victory for them. Even their silence can be calculated. By staying quiet, they know your mind will do the work for them. You'll wonder why they aren't reaching out, if they ever cared, if you did something wrong. That emptiness becomes an echo chamber that keeps you addicted to thinking about them, trying to fill in the blanks. They may not send you messages, but they'll post something suggestive, a vague caption, or a photo that seems to show they're happy and moving on without you. None of that is random. It's designed to keep you emotionally spinning. The obsession they create isn't about love or missing the good times. It's about emotional control. They want your healing to be slow. They want your confidence tied to their approval. They want your memories of them to interrupt your peace, your rest, your progress, because if they still live in your thoughts, they still matter. And for them, fading into irrelevance is the real nightmare. That's why detaching from a narcissist isn't only about blocking them or cutting communication. It's about taking back your mental and emotional space. As long as they occupy your thoughts, they don't need to be in your life to affect it. They've built a version of themselves inside your head that replays moments, analyzes details, and second guesses everything. The worst part is that you might not even notice you're doing it. You might mistake it for part of the healing process. But to the narcissist, that ongoing fixation is a delayed source of supply. It feeds their ego even in silence. So even when there's no contact, the game continues. Not through calls or texts, but through the emotional residue they left behind. They count on you to carry it, revisit it, and relive it. That's what they want, to stay unforgettable, even if it's through pain. When a narcissist is faced with no contact, they rarely see it as a boundary. They see it as a break in their game, a pause before the next round. They don't truly believe you're gone for good. Deep down, they assume you'll return one day, maybe not soon, but eventually. They count on it because they've trained you through cycles, love bombing, devaluation, chaos. They've conditioned your emotions to crave their attention, to fear losing them, and to seek their approval even when it hurts. So when you finally pull away, they don't panic. They wait. They expect you to break first. They believe their influence is timeless. They know what makes you feel guilty, what makes you doubt yourself, and what you still secretly hope for. They've shaped a version of themselves that's difficult to fully hate, even after everything. So when you walk away, they don't think it's over. They think you just need time to cool off, to miss them. They believe you'll eventually reach out. Until then, they stay quiet, confident that you're still emotionally tied to them. Sometimes they'll even twist your silence into a weapon. They'll tell others you're being cold or childish or that you abandoned them without reason. They do it to reframe the story, to make it seem like they're the victim. That's the trick. If they can make it look like you overreacted, it keeps the door open for them to manipulate again later. And if you feel guilty or misunderstood, you might reach out to explain yourself, which is exactly what they want. Even if they say nothing, their thinking doesn't change. In their mind, you're not done, you're just emotional. They tell themselves you'll come back once you calm down. That's why many narcissists don't rush in when you go silent. It's not because they've moved on, it's because they're calculating. They're testing your strength. They want to see how long it takes before you crumble. They want to confirm that the dependency they built still lives inside you. And if you do reach out even once, they take it as proof. To them, it's not about love. It's about ownership. They think they still own part of your heart, and now you've confirmed it. They count on time to help them. They wait for the anger to fade, for your clarity to blur, for the version of them in your memory to soften. They know how nostalgia works. With time, you might forget the constant anxiety, the manipulation, the exhaustion of walking on eggshells. You might only remember the charm, the connection, the highs. They rely on that. They let time do their work. If they sense you're moving on, they'll subtly reappear to stir old emotions. Maybe they'll send a simple message, just checking in, or they'll share a song you both loved, or a memory from the past. These moments are not signs of growth or regret. They're bait, carefully planned and perfectly timed. They want you to wonder if they've changed, if they miss you, if there's still hope. But all they're really doing is testing the door to see if it's still unlocked. The hardest part about no contact isn't the silence. It's letting go of the illusion, the fantasy that one day they'll finally see your value, finally treat you the way you deserve, finally become the person they pretended to be. Narcissists know this, and they use it. They know you want answers, closure, understanding. You want to believe it all meant something. That's why they don't chase you. They don't think they have to. In their mind, you'll eventually do it for them. When they lose access to you, they shift focus. One of the first things they try to control is the narrative. It's not about admiration. It's about manipulation. When you stop communicating, they know they can't reach you directly anymore. So they use other paths, mutual friends, social media, shared circles. They start telling their version of the story first. They'll begin subtly, planting little seeds of doubt about you. They'll say things like, "I don't know what happened. They just changed." Or, "I tried everything, but they wouldn't even talk to me." Those words sound harmless, but are deeply strategic. They make you look unstable or cold without sounding like a direct attack. Because narcissists often appear charming and believable, people tend to side with them. To outsiders, they look hurt, misunderstood, even victimized. And you become the one who seems unreasonable or distant. Image is everything to them. Being seen as the bad guy is their worst fear. So when you go no contact, it's not just the loss of access that bothers them, it's the loss of control over how they're perceived. You leaving creates a blank space in their story, and they rush to fill it with lies and half-truths. They can't stand the idea that people might hear your side or see who they truly are. So they craft a new version where you're the problem. You're the one who hurt them. You're the reason it all fell apart. Sometimes they don't even need to say much. They'll post vague quotes about betrayal or healing from toxic people, perfectly timed to make it seem like they're recovering from someone like you. It's all an act, a performance. But it works because no one else saw what you went through. They didn't witness the manipulation, the chaos, or the silent punishment. They only see what the narcissist wants them to see. And that's why protecting your peace means more than blocking them. It means refusing to explain yourself to anyone who believes their lies. Because in the end, silence is power when it's intentional. Detachment is victory when it's chosen. And the moment you stop trying to prove your truth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you begin to heal.